We're here at the AVPN Global Conference for 2025, right here in Hong Kong. And with me right now is Gbolahan Faleye, Executive Director for the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. So tell us a little bit about the Institute and what your priorities are.
Well, the Institute exists to support governments around the world to deliver reforms to their people. It's as simple as that. And I think if you remember a couple of years ago during the COVID-19 pandemic, one of the things I think we should have taken away from that is, our fastest route to scaling, kind of social impact and results can be through government. But that capacity doesn't always exist uniformly. The solutions don't always exist within government. And with the right support, government can be a real catalyst for transformative change at scale. And that's really what we're trying to do, support these governments around the world to deliver that change for their people. Right now, we're doing that in about 48 countries.
48?
Around the world.
Yeah.
And the issues we're working on are very broad, but in line with the priorities of those countries, ranging from economic prosperity, how to create jobs, for example, all the way through to healthcare and social programs, all the way through to how technology, in particular AI, is deployed effectively to support these reforms.
If you're talking to so many governments and working with so many governments around the world, they must be very receptive to what you're coming with to them. If governments are actually saying, okay, we need the help, what can you do to help us, improve our regulation or come up with new policy ideas? How do we do things differently? Is that the sort of reception that you're getting?
Well, I'd say yes, actually. But I think two things in addition. One is this all comes from a place of humility. Regardless of where you are in the world, government is hard to do. As I think you and I know, we are citizens of countries and we have our demands, we have our ambitions, we have our expectations of what we'd like to see. And all of those things are very complex and challenging in many ways, but also necessary for our lives to be great. And government are tasked with being the duty bearers of delivering that for us. And so it comes from a place of humility to be able to meet those expectations of a diverse group of people, whether in one country or multiple countries. And so being able to ask for help and work with others to deliver that change is really critical. But I'd say it's not just about working with organizations like mine, it's about working with organizations and others out there more broadly. And so at this conference, one of the things that I've been talking to people about is very much around public-private partnerships. How we're able to harness, the best ideas, the best skills, the best solutions as they exist, the best innovations, wherever they exist, and deploy them to improve outcomes for people across different countries around the world, working closely with government.
What are the most successful public-private partnerships? What do they look like?
It's funny, we were just in a conversation about this just a moment ago, and I asked a government representative from one of the governments in India this question, and he said two things, which I thought was very interesting. One was having very clear outcomes in mind, and two is aligning, kind of on the expectations, what you bring to the table, to deliver on those outcomes. Really as simple as that. Once you have a clear sense of what you're trying to achieve and what your contributions are to those outcomes, you can actually make transformative change happen. But of course, you and I know that getting multiple parties around the table to have that alignment is not easy.
No.
We've got to be transparent about that. But once that work's been done, you can really make some beautiful things happen to deliver impact for people.
Now, one of your focus areas at the Institute is, of course, technology.
Yes,
and deploying technology.
Yes.
So where are we at on that front? And how much easier is your job becoming with the advent of AI? And the speed which innovative change within technology is moving?
Well, one thing I'd start with is technology, and in particular AI, is not just kind of a question being asked by government and philanthropies and other stakeholders around the world. It is the question at the moment. And again, I was just in an event I was chairing a moment ago, and I asked the participants, about 20 of them, how many had used ChatGPT in the last 2 weeks, and all the hands around the table shot up. It's part of our lives as it is, and the task we have as leaders, whether a philanthropic leader or a government leader or a business leader, is to try and understand what it means for us, how to harness it, and how to work with it to deliver social impact for people. And that's really what we're trying to do, kind of with the governments we work with. I'll summarize by saying that, we've come up with a thesis about how we might help reimagine the state using the opportunities of AI and other technologies, really rethink, how government works fundamentally, not just, pastering over it, kind of by, putting in new computer systems and so on and so forth, but fundamentally rethinking how government works. Now that we have AI, to, kind of think about how you might have leapfrogged, kind of in Africa using the mobile phone, really applying those same, that same line of thinking in the way that we might think about AI and government going forward. That's front of mind for us and really exciting, I say.
Government tends to be quite cautious when it comes to new technology. How do you get past the risks of using new innovative technologies?
And we're doing a lot of thinking, by the way, on this. And so for anyone watching, please visit institute.global for a lot of the policy thinking put up by my colleagues on this issue. But I'd say, of course, there is caution in using new technologies, by the way, by all stakeholders, whether business or philanthropy or government. Really, the task we have ahead of us is to understand it, to ensure that we're applying it effectively, and to work in collaboration with others who really, kind of understand the technology to ensure that it's deployed effectively. That's really what we're about. And by the way, for TBI, for the Tony Blair Institute, these public-private partnerships is exactly about that, how you bring together stakeholders to be able to deploy this effectively in a way that's meaningful and also addresses issues now and not in the future.
What does the next 5 years look like to you?
What, for the Tony Blair Institute?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, super
it's
exciting.
A big question.
I mean, there are three things that are super important to us at this point. One is delivering impact to our clients. We are working with these governments around the world who are all, primarily focused on delivering, for their people. Front of mind for them is, education programs and, improved healthcare and, kind of moving to a prevention stance, for example, creating jobs, kind of moving, from smallholder farming to cash crops and so on and so forth. All of these objectives are all critical to have more prosperous societies, which is what we're about. And we think we can play an active role. And so for us, delivering good quality impacts for our clients, these governments around the world, is an absolute priority. And I think, something that we're able to do. But a key part of that will be about reimagining the state using AI, for sure. A second thing is, working with others as well. Strong partnerships, particularly with the private sector, but also with philanthropies and other governments will be absolutely key. We can't do it alone. And the way we're going to do this sustainably, as with other not-for-profit organizations out there, would be to work in close concert with others, mobilizing capital, mobilizing skills, mobilizing new technologies and innovations to help these countries and these governments to meet their goals. And by the way, I should emphasize, mobilizing capital is really important. A lot of the conversations I see with other non-profit leaders out there can be quite reticent when it comes to mobilizing capital, kind of to do the work that we do. But I feel like we should be completely unashamed about, having conversations about money, because it takes money to do good work.
A lot of money.
So we should lean into that, I think. And so for me, over the next 5 years, mobilizing capital, mobilizing private capital in particular, will be absolutely key. And then the last thing is, I've worked with the organization now for over 10 years, and I've done so because I love it, but also because it really values its people. And so for us, kind of getting the right, bright minds who are committed to social impact to drive forward this work would be absolutely critical. So next 5 years for us is making sure all the best people out there come to work for us.
Amazing. All right, well, you heard it here first. Thank you so much for joining us. It was an absolute pleasure to have you with us.
Absolutely my pleasure to speak to you. Thank you.